The issue with high cholesterol is something that we do not actually notice in our day-to-day lives, but rather we pick it up when we go for a routine medical checkup and a doctor does a blood test and determines that our cholesterol levels in our that the cholesterol levels in our blood are high. High cholesterol is what they say will lead to heart disease, and therefore it isn't good for us to have this high cholesterol level in our blood. The main solution towards addressing this high cholesterol problem is the use of statin medication. But the thing is that most people end up being on statins long term without seeing any permanent change to their blood cholesterol levels. But how do we get high cholesterol in the first place? Let's look at how we grow our wealth in our bank accounts, because the principles behind how we grow our cholesterol levels in our blood function in a similar manner. In our bank, what we notice is that when we have an income and an expenditure, the net balance in our bank account will increase when our income is greater than our expenditure. Meaning we are earning more money, we're putting more money into our bank than we're actually taking out to spend on things. So to accumulate a nice healthy bank balance more quickly, we must either increase our income or reduce our expenditure. In the same way, our body functions as that kind of system. We have various inputs entering the body and various outputs exiting the body. We have to be balancing the inputs and the outputs because we don't want to accumulate too many things in our body, but the same input output mechanism remains. Unfortunately, when we look at cholesterol in our body, there is a slightly more complicated process, because not only do we have to contend with our input and our output, but we need to be aware that there is a reabsorption loop. So, in the sense that now our liver actually synthesizes fresh cholesterol from the input, and it processes waste cholesterol for elimination via the stool. But because of the reabsorption loop, what happens is that whatever output that we have, we will always be reabsorbing some back into the liver, in from the intestines. So what happens when we are experiencing some form of constipation issues, where we are unable to get rid of the solid matter from our bodies as quickly or as efficiently as we desire, or as it is desired to be? We would end up reabsorbing more cholesterol back into our blood. So the next idea that we have to look at is the concept of density. Most of us will know that oil does not mix with water. In fact, when we try to mix oil with water, it will separate into two distinct layers. The oil will float on top of the water because it has a lower density than water. So in the same way, if we want to try to introduce cholesterol into our blood, the cholesterol particles will end up separating from the blood into its own distinct oily layer. And we will see something like this, which means that it's not very easy to transport cholesterol from the liver to the cells in our body. So how do we actually? We have this idea of a lipoprotein, which is a molecule that functions like a bag. The liver synthesizes cholesterol and puts it into the lipoprotein for transport to the body. So now, when the lipoprotein leaves the liver, it will be full of cholesterol, which means that its overall density will decrease. So what do we call it? We call it a low density lipoprotein or LDL. So as the LDL particle, which is full of cholesterol, travels throughout the body, it distributes fresh cholesterol to the cells in our body so that the body can synthesize new cells and repair any living but damaged cells. It also takes in waste cholesterol to send back to the liver for processing and elimination. When most of the cholesterol in the lipoprotein, in the LDL, has been distributed out to the cells, and it takes back a smaller amount of waste cholesterol to send back to the liver, its overall density will increase, and therefore we call it a high density lipoprotein or HDL. So there is no such thing as good or bad cholesterol, but you have low density, which takes cholesterol from the liver, sends it out to the cells, and you have high density lipoprotein, HDL, which takes cholesterol, the waste cholesterol from the cells and sends it back to the liver for processing and elimination. So what happens in the reabsorption loop when we can't actually eliminate the waste cholesterol fast enough? We would end up reabsorbing more cholesterol, and this extra cholesterol would find its way back to the liver and into the lipoproteins. So the liver, being unable to hold on to these cholesterol particles, will end up stuffing more of them into the lipoproteins, and we would see an increase in the LDL, a decrease in the HDL, and most probably an accumulation of fat in the liver because cholesterol is fat. And then we have the non-alcoholic fatty liver disease problem coming out as well. So the problem is we are so focused on what is going into our bodies. For example, many people will say that, oh, eating too many eggs will raise the cholesterol levels, therefore it's not good. But then we completely neglect the aspect of what is going out of our bodies. So in addition to not eating eggs, for example, or in addition to taking in statins that block the synthesis of fresh cholesterol, how much are we actually eliminating versus how much are we synthesizing? Because at the end of the day, if we aren't eliminating it fast enough, it's going to get reabsorbed, it's going to go back, and we will see that the problem of high cholesterol doesn't just magically disappear from there. And we have to understand too that this reabsorption loop will continue to function as long as our intestines are semi-permeable, and they will always be semi-permeable because we use them to absorb nutrients from our food into our blood. The cholesterol particles will just go in as well. And the thing is that statins don't aid in the elimination of cholesterol, neither does eating less cholesterol aid in the elimination. What we're looking at is how well we are actually going to the toilet, because if you can imagine, when you're wiping your butt and you see a very sticky residue on the toilet paper, what is it doing inside your intestines? Would it be coating the inside of your intestines? Meaning, would your fecal matter be actually coating the inside of your intestines and staying longer in there? And as it's staying longer in there, you're reabsorbing even more cholesterol. So for a more detailed and technical explanation of the cholesterol issue, you may feel free to check out my ebook or my website. Thank you very much for listening today.